Welcome, gamers, to Basement Arcade Pause Menu, the show where we hit pause, sit back, and just chill. I'm your host, Ben Magnet, and today on the show, I have, once again, returning from the last episode of Pause Menu, not the quarterly, the one before that. He is 1/3 of the Gamers Week podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show, Donnie G Retro. Johnny, how's it going, bud?
How's it going, Ben? How you doing?
It is going great. You have earned another stamp on your sandwich card. And,
when do I get my free sub?
Yeah, thanks for coming back on the show, man. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate that.
Dude, of course, anytime. Actually, one of these days I want to get you, Ryan, and Blue on the show. That will be a good show to have one of these days.
Yeah, definitely.
I would love to do that. But before we start, let's just get right into it, because we introduced you last time. We know what you're all about, except for the audio listeners. You're wearing a New York Rangers jersey today.
I am wearing a New York Rangers jersey. Now, I have three teams that I root for in the NHL. The St. Louis Blues, they're my tried and true. They're my hometown team. The New York Rangers, I've loved the Rangers ever since the 90s. And the Philadelphia Phillies. Philadelphia Flyers, not the Phillies. That's a baseball team. I hate the Phillies. The Philadelphia Flyers.
I normally hate the Phillies too, but this is the one exception where I will cheer for them, because I hate the Astros more.
Of course.
And if you're listening / watching this, at the time of this recording, Game 2 of the World Series is today. It's the Phillies versus the Houston Astros. Excuse me, Astros. I mean cheaters. I mean Astros. I'm a Dodgers fan, and I am still not over 2017. I will forever be better about that. And yeah, so as of right now, Philadelphia is up 1-0 in the series. So this is the one time I'll ever cheer for the Phillies. But I did cheer for the Eagles because I hate the Patriots more. And that was just great to see Tom Brady lose.
I think everybody hates the Patriots.
And even after Tom Brady leaves, I still hate the Patriots.
Right. Because Bill Belichick.
Yeah, but we will be talking sports a little bit later. Today on the show, we're talking about our hangover from Portland Retro Gaming Expo. You were there. I was there. So many other things were there. Money I had is still there. And
yeah, I spent a little bit more than what I should.
You're not the only one. I thought I was going to be okay, but then I got other money that I didn't think I was going to get, and I did.
Oh,
that's good. Cool. And then, of course, the Dodgers had to lose to the series against the Padres. So then the next day was Sunday, and that was my already shopping day. And I'm thinking, oh, hey, retail therapy to cope with the pain.
Now you're doing depressed retail therapy.
I was doing depressed retail therapy. Oh, my God. But, yeah, let's start with so, Donnie, you have been a attendant of the show. Is this like your second, third time, or have you been going for many years already?
Oh, are you talking about PRGE?
Oh yeah, PRGE. Yeah,
that was only my second time. The first time that I attended was in 2019, right before the pandemic.
The last one.
Yeah, that's when prices were very moderately acceptable. I could have gotten a complete in box TurboGrafx 16, and I'm talking mint. It had the plastic wrap around the manuals, all that stuff, for $250. And I balked at it, and I should have gotten it. Now, this next time in 2022, I saw another vendor that had one, and I think he wanted like $400 for it. So prices were more reasonable. I got more bang for my buck in 2019. This time around, not so much. Things were a little bit higher in price, so I didn't come back with as much.
Yeah, this was my first ever time going to PRGE.
Okay.
I want to say I knew of PRGE, and this like in 2018, 2019, but even in 2018, I wasn't fully into retro video games at the time. I mean, I was very small on Twitter. I wasn't really branching out and doing a whole lot of stuff. I don't think I was writing for anyone at the time. And then once 2019 rolled around, and then of course the pandemic hit, and I started working on my writing more, and I started focusing on really it was just like missing cons and trying to find out what cons can I go to, because here in Southern California we had a few, but then the pandemic hit, and of course some of them, the ones that did survive, it's like yay. But I must say, Portland PRGE is the type of show that I wish all retro video game shows could emulate in some way, shape, or form.
Well, it's funny that you say that because there is one that does, and that is the Midwest Gaming Classic. That happens in Milwaukee in about March or April, and it's a fun time. It's basically almost the size of PRGE. They have the same thing where they have a separate room with all of the arcade machines and consoles that you can sit down and play at. They had panels the last time that we went. I think in 2021. They did not have panels, but they did have the vendor floor and stuff. You had to wear a mask inside, but that was like the first time that we were getting back to normal with things opening up as far as a convention is concerned. So, in my opinion, the vendor hall is maybe a little bit smaller, maybe about half the size of what PRGE was, but still a lot of different vendors to choose from, a lot of cool items to see, and it's a fun time.
Yeah. Because I remember seeing pics from some of my from people I follow on Instagram and from Twitter I think I also saw some of your pictures from Milwaukee earlier this year. I could be wrong, but yeah, Midwest Gaming Classic I heard is such a great time. Here in California, we have, like in Southern California specifically, we do have a show called SoCal Gaming Expo, and I'm not throwing shade at SoCal Gaming. The venue that we've had it in is a smaller venue. Like Ontario Convention Center is a smaller venue, but a lot of good vendors. There are panels. The only thing that bums me out sometimes is that they're missing the arcade. Because there was there's another show in 2019 that I went, or 2018 that I went to, and once again, smaller show. But not only did they have vendors, they also had a free-to-play arcade with tons of pinball. There were tournaments going around all day, and that I was like, man, that's the one I missed. That's the one I missed because I love walking in, not just seeing a huge arcade and consoles, but also seeing vendors and some panels to attend to. Now, don't get me wrong, not to throw shade at either convention. One of them is still going to this day, which I'm thankful for, and the other, unfortunately, had to close the doors because conventions are hard.
Yeah.
But after going to PRGE, I mean, I know it's the biggest one, and I know it's kind of foolish to try and judge other conventions from PRGE. But that was just such it wasn't a mind-blowing experience, but for someone who is now just kind of getting into this sort of thing, I have to say it was absolutely amazing. And I'm kind of mad at myself for missing prior shows like 2019, 2018, so on and so forth.
Yeah, 2019 was my first foray into it, and seeing what the convention had, what it all had with the classic Tetris World Championship, all of the arcade machines, all of the sit-down classic machines that you could play, the different tournaments that they put on, the different panels, and of course the vendors. That to me was like the mecca. That was the major retro video game convention. And from what I understand, it didn't always used to be like that. They started off in some like Holiday Inn or some very, very, very small space. And I think it was always just vendors and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you take a look at Seattle, the Seattle and Portland region, Oregon and Washington State, the retro game collection, the retro game collecting scene out there is stupid expensive. So I'm thinking that because of the fact that it was there, that's the prices that we're paying. We're paying West Coast prices. We're paying Seattle or Pacific Northwest prices. However, if you were to come to the Midwest Gaming Classic, I don't know if I would have seen some of the same prices. Maybe because it does, like you said, it costs a lot for a convention to happen. A vendor getting a table costs them several $1,000s. Then they have to pay for internet. Then they have to pay for food and stuff for their staff. So them increasing their prices a little bit is justifiable because they're taking on so much cost to be there.
Yeah. And also I would have to say the cost and price, because I also listen to a few other shows, video game centric podcast, who they don't complain, but they definitely talk about how bad prices have gotten since the pandemic. Now, the pandemic and with retro video games, it has been a bit of a double-edged sword. It's like more people are interested in playing their older video games again. They're busting out their old consoles from the attic or the basement or wherever. And it's like, hey, I want to relive the days of my childhood. And then it's like, oh, I don't have this game. Then they look up online and all of a sudden prices start going up. More people are getting into retro games. And then the whole crap with WADA happened. And that probably helped with more prices going up.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
And I think people saw it as an investment as opposed to just a regular collecting thing. They're like, oh, this is something I can sink my money into and it's going to hold value, possibly grow in value because of this one game now selling for $3,000 when before it was only $100. Like, oh, let me try my hand at the video game stock market.
Oh, I hated that. I hated that so much.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, even when, because luckily I had a media badge because my publisher for one of the magazines I write for, he was able to get me and a friend of mine a media badge, and we were able to walk into the vendor hall the day before it opened on Friday.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, nice. And walking through, I forgot what booth it was, but they had a bunch of sealed WATA graded games. That it wasn't WATA themselves. I want to say it was either the auction booth.
I know which booth. Yep.
You know?
I know which booth you're talking about. Yep.
Yeah, and I was walking through, and I took a few pictures and I posted on my Instagram and the Fake Nerd Podcast Instagram on, do you want to pay off a car or buy the most popular Super Mario Nintendo 64 game ever made?
Yeah.
Because Mario 64, this booth was selling it for $37,000.
That's just stupid.
And I'm just looking at this going, what the damn hell? And even I went to Pat Contry's booth of the CU podcast to buy one of his guidebooks as a reference book. And when I went over there on Friday, a WATA guy was actually trying to I would say, arguing with him or trying to start an argument because he was with WATA. He was like I need to come to your podcast so I could defend WATA and why WATA is good. And he's like, no.
Yeah, no way.
Shoo.
I want absolutely nothing to do with WATA or any type of grading, and I say that with a caveat. So I have 2 or 3 sealed games. And one of them being Goonies 2 for the NES. Now, if I were to take that game and if I were to grade it and let's just say I could sell it for $5,000, that's more money I can go out and use to buy games I can play, games that I can open up and actually enjoy. So I'm not a sealed guy by any chance. I don't go out there and spend a ridiculous amount of money on a sealed game or a graded game. To me, that defeats the purpose of collecting, of actually playing the damn game. Because now everything I have is all boxed in this clunky plastic acrylic case that you can't use. Oh, I get to look at it. That's it. So.
And even to get to the game, you're gonna have to get a sledgehammer because not only that, you send the game out to get graded, and then it comes back and it doesn't come in with the grade that you want. You have to break the case and send it again. Hopefully that someone else gives it a better score. But yeah. Anyways, as far as I could tell, the WATA booth, not a lot of people were there, and I stayed essentially I avoided WATA like the plague. The places I did not avoid like the plague though were the arcade and a bunch of other vendors. And Lordy, I gotta tell you, I loved that arcade.
Yes.
That arcade was just awesome.
Now, it wasn't as big as in years past, but still, it did the job. It had the necessary games. It had your fighting games. It had, I think it even had an afterburner arcade machine, which was on the fritz. You couldn't play it. There was a couple games like that, actually. But yeah, it had a decent selection.
Yeah, I was walking through with my friend Scott because I asked my friend Scott has been to PRGE beforehand, and so when I was playing this trip when I wanted to go, I called him up as like, "Hey, you've been before. Do you want to come back?" He's like, "Hell yeah, let's go." And a lot of the time when we were walking through, Scott was telling me that the arcade got smaller, but of course this is the first year back after a 3-year hiatus, essentially.
Yeah.
So there's probably more people there, but there's a little less stuff to do, if that makes sense. But me being a first timer, I only have a few California conventions to go off of. And already I'm walking through and I'm just like sensory overload. I'm like a kid in a candy store walking in. And when I saw you on Friday, that was by complete chance. I literally saw your Gamers Week podcast sweatshirt for a split second. I'm like, Donnie, is that you?
I know that podcast.
Yeah, I know this guy. Although I feel bad because I do follow Red Ox and Ducks in Disguise I followed Red Ox first. I followed Ducks in Disguise afterwards, and it completely went over my head that that's who you were with.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, people who don't really post a lot of their I guess their faces and whatnot, you kind of don't. You're not familiar. You're not that intimate with how they look and what you should be looking for whenever you go to a convention like that. So it's understandable.
Yeah. But I want to get your thoughts on like your thought process throughout the day, because I know on, I want to say Saturday you were at the Blockbuster Video Game Championships.
Yes.
How was that? I wasn't able to go. I was able to go, but I was just running all over the place on Saturday and Sunday. But what happened? What happened during the championships? I want to know.
So my time was like 12:50 or something like that. And I got there like right at 12:50, knowing I probably should have gotten there 10 minutes before. But I was too busy just like walking around the vendor hall, seeing what else I could buy. And then I show up and they're like, yeah, you kind of missed your spot. So we'll slide you into the next one. And the next slot was like maybe like 20 minutes later. And I got slotted in with Pat Contry of all people.
Oh, wow.
But in my pool that I should have been, I think there was only like 4 people. So I might have had a better chance, but I had never played Bomberman 97 or Saturn Bomberman prior to this time. So I went in there very green, not knowing what to do. Luckily, they did have an instruction sheet that was like in acrylic that you could just kind of glance at. Okay, this button does that, this button does that, and this button does this. So I kind of got familiar with the controls, but the strategy had no idea. So the floor was wiped with me pretty easily and pretty quickly. And then you only got one shot. So if you don't qualify in Bomberman, you don't get to qualify on with the next game. So once my pod was over, I picked up my stuff and I left.
Oh no!
But it was good on double jump games for what they're trying to do, recreating the Blockbuster World Championship. And I hope that's something they continue to do moving forward at subsequent PRGEs in the future.
Yeah. Even that whole mini Blockbuster experience was something that I was not expecting.
Yeah. So if you haven't seen the last Blockbuster documentary that was on Netflix, Sandy, I can't remember her last name, but she's the manager that runs the last Blockbuster. And she was there and she got this, we talked to her and everything. I asked her if she wanted to be a guest on the podcast. When we asked her, why don't you rent video games? And she said, well, there's a reason for that. And it's because we wouldn't get them back. So, and I can understand that if you go out and purchase, like you have to spend $50 to $60, especially on new titles that you want. She does a lot of this herself, where she will buy inventory herself. So that's coming out of her pocketbook. So you take a game like a PS5 game, you go and you rent it out to somebody. Well, guess what? Now they've got to install it. And then you have to worry about them uninstalling it from their PC, or I'm sorry, from their PlayStation or Xbox or whatever. And then they take it back to the store, or sometimes they just don't take it back at all. So now that's a loss that they have to incur. And I completely get it. And you definitely don't want to do that with any type of retro games.
Right. I actually was able to talk to Sandy for a little bit myself when I was there, because even beforehand, when I was playing the show with my friend, I asked him, it's like, hey, do you want to take like a road trip to the last Blockbuster? It's about, how far away is it from Oregon or from Portland? And he's like, that's like a 4-hour thing, maybe 4.5 hours, because we're going to want to walk through the store in a bit. And I'm like,
yeah,
okay, yeah, maybe not, because also we didn't want to rent a car and go through all
4
that.
hours just to drive to a Blockbuster.
I know, right? But the fact that they brought it there, and of course they were selling merch, I had to buy a T-shirt. I obviously had to do it. The fact that they had that like mini Blockbuster there, I was just like, even walking through that small little slice of life they had, it was literal flashbacks.
It was a nostalgia bomb for sure.
It truly was, because I'm thankful that I grew up going to a Blockbuster on a Friday night with my dad, with my brother, and the way my parents were able to decide of who got to watch the movie first was by a coin flip.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's how. I mean, we both got to pick a movie, so it wasn't like one or the other. We both got to pick our movie, but we had to pick who got to watch it first, and it was a coin flip.
And of course, if it's a 2-hour movie, then it's 9:00 now, or it's 10:00. It's like, oh, okay, I'm feeling a little bit tired. I don't know if I can make it to the second movie. Then you gotta wait till the next night.
Yeah, thankfully, 9 times out of 10, the movies we rented were like animated children's movies or compilations, or like compilation, or like TV show episode compilations. So they were over like an hour, 40 minutes, and then I could pop the next one in.
That's
But yeah,
nice.
it's just the fact that the Blockbuster experience was there, and I even knew about the about the video game championships, and I'm like, oh, what game is it? And then I see Bomberman '97 for the Saturn. I'm like, I've never played this game before. I'm not even gonna try.
And then the other game that they had was, I think it was an indie developed game for the Atari Jaguar. I don't remember the name of the game off the top of my head, but the premise was very simple, very rudimentary. You're trying not to let the top of the screen or the bottom of the screen touch your guy. So
Oh.
it's a platformer. You have to find
Mhm.
spaces to fall down and make your way from the top all the way down to the bottom. So keeping some buffer in between you and the top and you and the bottom with platforms coming up and trying to get power ups and stuff like that. But that's the premise. It's very easy. It doesn't change speed or anything like that. It doesn't change direction. It's the same thing, but it messes with your mind. It really does.
Just the premise of that alone sounds like it's easy to learn, but it's difficult to master.
Right.
It's definitely one of those games where it's like, oh yeah, just avoid like keep your dude away from X, Y, and Z. It's like, oh, I can do that, but all of a sudden it's like, oh, what else can I do with this?
Right. And it's a guessing game. I don't
Mhm.
know if there's a chance for memorization. If you were to memorize that kind of game, because the levels are, so it's like the levels look a certain way until you hit a certain point, a certain point increase. And then all of a sudden the platforms change to like crayons or they change to rulers or something like that. So it takes a long time for that level to change. And that level of memorization, I think is, as somebody who's got like maybe a photographic memory, they could probably make it through that. But me, I couldn't do it.
No, I didn't see any of that game, but I did catch some glimpse of the Tetris World Championships over on the big screen next to the arcade.
Yeah.
And just seeing people play old school Tetris like that, I'm just like going, how are they this good? I mean, obviously years of practice, years of concentration, years of
Yes.
mastering the game. But I mean, I'd call myself a decent Tetris player. And like but the best I've gotten on like Tetris 99 is maybe third place, if that. And even
I
then,
have never gotten first place on Tetris 99.
oh yeah, no, someone else who has never gotten first place. I'm not alone.
Right.
But just even with the like modern Tetris, the fact that there's like a little ghosting of where the piece goes, I need that. I'm spoiled by that. You
Yes. Yes.
you plot me in with the original Game Boy Tetris or Tetris on the NES, and I'm just like, what? No, I didn't mean that for that piece to go there. Oh, and my whole rhythm gets screwed up. And also the whole button is like my saving grace.
Yeah. I get that, but that's what trips me up about Tetris 99. So
Mhm.
in 2019, I actually I got to sit in there and watch Mega Retro Man, my friend Mega Retro Man Paul Tessie, participate in the classic Tetris World Championship. And that's the one where he actually beat Joseph Neubauer, who was one of the reigning champions.
Ooh.
Um, And I was like, man, I don't know how you guys do it. These pieces fall so quickly that like I would never be able to do that. So, and Paul's like, yeah, with some practice, you could be here no problem. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. Well, I get home, and then like a week later, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try it. Popped in Tetris, started on level 18, and it was just like a rain of fireballs. I'm like, oh, okay, that's I can't do it. I can't do it. Couldn't, like maybe a couple times I was like, screw it. Then I picked it back up. Then I started becoming acclimated and I started setting myself goals. Like, okay, I want to get 20,000. I hit 20,000. Okay, let's do 40,000. And then getting comfortable with that, let's try to get 100,000. The first time I got 100,000, I was like, yes, that's awesome. Now I can play Tetris on level 18 pretty comfortably, getting scores of 400, 500,000, transitioning, getting through up to like level 23, 24. I've never gotten above 600,000. And from what I understand, so I'm a DAS player, which is basically you press the up, left, down, right with your thumb. You don't do any hyper tapping or anything like that. You don't hold the controller in a weird way. You don't roll it. And rolling is one of the new popular techniques with Tetris is you brace the controller up against like your knee or whatever, and you invert it, and you're tapping your fingers on the back of the controller with your other finger on the D-pad. And that's supposed to register, make it feel like you're actually tapping it really quickly. It's like so when the pieces are getting higher and higher and higher and you're rolling, they go to the left and right very quickly.
I am learning so much stuff from this because
I would love to learn how to roll.
That's a technique in Tetris, in classic
Yep.
Tetris for the
In classic Tetris.
If you put a classic NES controller in my hand and say play Tetris, I'm holding it normal style,
Same here.
What?
Then you would be a DAS player.
Yeah, I guess I am a DAS player. Bloody hell.
And what I've also learned is that, so when moving the pieces left and right, you actually have to keep your thumb or finger on the D-pad. So if you put something over to the right and then you lift up off of it, it loses that pressure. And then the piece that comes down, it takes a couple more inputs to get it to back up to speed to move over to the left quickly. If you don't, it's like or and it breaks your rhythm. So if you don't keep your thumb on that pad consistently and constantly, it'll trip you up.
Oh man. I'm learning something. I'm learning so much new stuff today about people playing classic Tetris. And because I just took one look at people playing classic Tetris, and I just looked up and said, nope, and I walked away. I went back to Wild Bill's. I went back to Wild Bill's to get a refill on my root beer. I was just like, there's no way in hell I could do it.
That's the way I first felt whenever I saw them play. But with some practice, you can definitely be there.
Yeah, practice makes perfect. But unfortunately, my NES is in there and it's not plugged in yet. So
okay. I'll just plug it up.
Yep, gotta plug it up. But besides that, one of the other things that I love about or I loved about PRGE is besides the tournaments, the arcade, the blockbuster experience, and also the video game museum that they had, which I thought was great. The little Pac-Man museum they had, I thought was really cool to see all the different Pac-Man memorabilia throughout the years. What I also loved was display of consoles throughout all the video gaming.
Mm-hmm.
And it's at places like this because back in the before times, SoCal Gaming had a display of consoles as well that you can play that you never played before. And for the first time ever, I got to play a Fairchild Channel F and a Virtual Boy. Never played a Virtual Boy, never played a Fairchild. The fact that they had a Fairchild sitting there ready to go, I'm like, well, I have to. And I'm kind of upset about the Fairchild because I had no idea what the heck I was to do. I was trying to restart a game and I'm like reading the thing on like the tech specs and everything. I'm like, cool, but how do I pick a game? How do I make this? Because I played a game for a hot second and I have to say that controller was so weird.
I've never laid hands on a Fairchild before.
Okay. So the Fairchild controller is essentially like a joystick, but you hold it in one hand and there's like a knob on the top. And to like the knob is your directional one to go up, down. And I think some games go left and right, but a lot of them were like Pong clones essentially. But another way to activate is you push down on said knob and it like registers a button press.
Okay.
That's it. That's all the Fairchild controller is. It's essentially just like a joystick and you just do that as I'm clicking my girlfriend's pen. And it was definitely one of those very early 80 games, very early 80 systems that you're just looking at this going, because they didn't know what was going on.
Right.
But the fact that this was the first console to use cartridges that I'm like, I could finally say I played a Fairchild before. This is cool. I'm playing history. Like the fact that I'm sitting there looking at this, looking at the Atari, there's a Commodore a few seats down next to me. I'm just sitting there going, I'm sitting in a room with all this grand video game history. All these consoles are plugged in. They're ready to go. People can play them that they've never been able to play before. They don't have to. And I thought that was amazing.
You don't have to unplug something from the TV and plug this system up and do all that. It's all ready for you.
It's all ready to go. It's all there. And I'm like, man, this is great. This is why I love things like these. And then I went over to try to play the Virtual Boy. And I'm like, oh, so that was a Virtual Boy. My eyes hurt now.
It's an acquired taste. I don't play my Virtual Boy all that often. I think I only have like maybe 3 games for it. But yeah, it's a cool little system. There are some people who actually modify their Virtual Boys to where they can play it on their television screen. But yeah, you lose the 3D effect and everything. But yeah, it's a simple modification that they can do. If you have the technical know-how, it should be pretty easy. I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to end up risking bricking my Virtual Boy. So I play it every once in a while.
Yeah. Actually, one of the things about the Virtual Boy that I will say, I did get an eye strain a little bit, but it wasn't as bad as people say. Probably because I only played it for about maybe 5-10 minutes at the most.
Yeah.
The game that I was plugged in was Mario Clash, and I actually kind of liked it. But really, the problem I had with the Virtual Boy was the controller and not the 3D effect itself.
Okay.
Mostly because I mean it's a very interesting controller. There's two D pads on either side, and I just kept trying to couldn't figure out where my A and B buttons were. Are you rolling away to grab your Virtual Boy controller?
I am. I'm actually
Oh,
grabbing the
there it
entire
is.
Virtual Boy.
There it is.
So, yeah, you're right. There are two D pads on either side. It basically looks like you said, two controllers fused together. Select start A, B on that side. But yeah, it makes you kind of wonder why they have two D pads.
Yeah. I don't know if that was to help with like the 3D effect or whatnot, but really my only issue was like there are times I forgot where my A and my B button were. And also I've never played Mario Clash before. So I'm learning as I'm playing.
Right.
And Mario Clash, I actually say it was a pretty cool, different rendition of the Super Mario Bros. Arcade game, where you defeat some turtles, and then the layout changes a little bit, and you have something in the foreground, and then you have to go into the background and continue the level from there. I thought that was actually, for the time, pretty innovative.
I would not know. I have never played Mario Clash.
Okay.
I do have it sitting there on my shelf. Yeah, sealed for. I just never popped it open.
Okay. I would say it was pretty fun. I'm not gonna lie, I enjoyed it, but still playing. This is my first time ever playing a Virtual Boy, so just even though just like hunched over on the table, my face up on that visor, and I'm just like, so this. And even then, I posted on Twitter. That was like I think my most popular tweet from the entire convention, just saying I can finally say I played a Virtual Boy.
Right,
and so
right. I saw that.
And so many people in my comments were like, "Cool, how's the headache?"
Yep. There were people that experienced that back in the 90s. That was all the things like sticking your head in there for like a good hour or 45 minutes is going to give you a headache. When I picked mine up like maybe 6 years ago, I played it for about a good 20 minutes. Did I have a headache? No. Mostly a neck strain, just like holding my neck inside. Yeah. But no headaches.
Yeah, really, it's just like the way the Virtual Boy is. It's like you think they would put like a headset, like a strap, kind of like a MetaQuest or something.
You would think a strap would be nice, but I guess that's why they have the stand. So you don't have to have something on your head whatsoever. It's a stand. That's it. You can adjust the stand. There's no height adjustment, which sucks, but putting your face in this thing, yeah, you're going to have to hold it like that. And that causes some problems.
Yeah, as I was playing this, because right before I went to Portland, I was visiting some friends of mine, and another friend of a friend brought in his VR headset, and yeah, wearing that thing, compared that to a Virtual Boy, we have made leaps and bounds from the Virtual Boy.
Yes, we have.
But not to throw any shade at this console, because obviously when Nintendo tried this gimmick, they thought it was a good idea, and they eventually brought the 3D back with the 3DS. Although I'm still kind of like, you could have done some cool stuff with the Virtual Boy games, like remade those in a Virtual Boy collection. That was a missed opportunity, Nintendo.
Yep, definitely. That was something they could have done. I don't know if it's, I don't think you can do something like that on the Switch. Maybe they just think it's not worth it. It's not worth the time or the investment. So,
well, then of course you hear a lot of people say, I mean, it's probably one of the reasons why they made the 2DS. Because people have said they play their 3DS with the 3D functionality off.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's just me just being a little bitter because I've heard some great games on the Virtual Boy, but they've never been released elsewhere, or they can't be released because the way the Virtual Boy was.
I think that's the reason why.
Yeah.
But with people who take their Virtual Boys, like I said, and they modify them and make them to where they can play it on their televisions. Yeah, you lose the 3D effect, but there are still some games out there that are perfectly fine without the 3D effect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Like I could definitely see like Mario Clash being a title that you could play in either 3D or 2D, and it wouldn't affect it negatively. And also Mario Tennis. I mean, that's on the Virtual Boy, yes, but you have Mario Tennis on how many other consoles?
You're not wrong, and I think the other platformer game that might be beneficial is a Wario game. That's
that one. Boy. Yeah, I've heard great things about that Wario game.
So have I.
Yeah, but unfortunately, that was I probably could have played it because there was a sign that says if you want to play a certain game, ask that there's like these people in the middle of the console area, and they
Okay.
had all these crates around them. So I assume that's where they were holding the spare games.
Nice.
So if you wanted to play a different game, you can go up to them and says, "Hey, I'm playing an Atari Jaguar. Do you have Alien versus Predator on the Atari Jaguar?" And they're like, "Yeah, sure." They'll walk over you, swap the game, walk back.
Yeah, because they, if I'm not mistaken, they had the consoles in cages. So the
They did
cages were.
not. The consoles
Oh,
were open.
okay. At Midwest Gaming Classic, I remember
Mhm.
specifically that consoles were in cages, so
Okay.
you couldn't have access to the individual games. And I like that as a security feature because obviously there are some nefarious people out here that would take something from a convention like that. If it's like,
Mhm.
oh, can I play Red Alert on the Virtual Boy or Red Alarm? Let me play that one. And that's, I think, is one of the most expensive games on, or Jack Bros. Like, can I play
Mhm.
Jack Bros? Next thing you know, your copy of Jack Bros is missing from the convention.
Yeah. Yeah. That and actually and also I'm kind of surprised that they had all those consoles open, but there was a sign that says don't no drinks on the table. But there were a few people who had water bottles. I thankfully my Wild Bill was like because I bought a Wild Bill's mug, I caved. I had mine on the floor right between my feet. I'm like, this sucker is not going anywhere. Because especially when I see a line of Atari 2600s, I know 2600 is probably not that expensive, but then I look at a
Yeah.
Fairchild, there's a Commodore, a Genesis, and of course a Dreamcast and a GameCube. I'm looking at these older consoles. I'm like, these things are getting up there in age, especially the Atari and the early Atari stuff. I don't want these things to die. So that goes down there. And I'm, as far as I can tell, there were no problems. But I was only there for a hot second, so I don't know if anything else happened. I hope not.
Well, hopefully it didn't, but it probably did. There's going to be
Yeah.
some child or some adult man child that just doesn't listen, and they end up like looking around like what, and then knocking something off, and there you
Mhm.
go. It ruins everything for everybody.
Yeah, true. Well, if the consoles are still there next year, we know everything's okay.
Absolutely. You
Fingers
can always
crossed.
find a replacement Atari 2600.
That you can, or at least plug in a clone console or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So besides the arcade, what was some of the things that you saw at the convention that surprised you and you didn't think was going to be there? If you could think of one, because there were definitely a few things that I saw that I'm like, huh, I was expecting that, but I'm very happy it was here.
I don't think there was anything that I wasn't expecting, and that was because, like I said, I had attended a couple of years before, and
Hmm.
then the other video game convention that I saw, the Midwest Gaming Classic, it definitely prepped me for what should be at PRGE. So there wasn't really any surprises that stood out to
Really?
me. Yeah.
Okay. Now,
So give
because
me one of yours.
one of my surprises was this company out in Brooklyn that makes vinyl soundtracks of video games.
Okay. All right. Okay. So now you're talking specifically about vendors and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think that, yeah, definitely that was pretty cool.
Okay.
But really, I guess when you get down to it, if there's an opportunity to make something for people like especially us retro video game collectors, I think that somebody's going to take that opportunity. So
Yeah.
it did surprise me that there was an item like that, but it didn't.
Okay. Yeah, because I knew that there were video game I knew there were video game soundtrack companies that people make soundtracks for video games all the time. I
Hmm.
just wasn't expecting vinyl. And what surprised me were the types of games or the types of soundtracks that were available. I'm talking Mega Man Legends, Legends 2, a few
Yeah.
other Breath of Fire was a big one that they had. You have indie games which have been also praised to high heaven for their soundtracks, like Celeste. I don't. There was another game that was there, but I know they had a few copies of Celeste. They had a few variant copies of Celeste, but the ones that, of course, I automatically went to was Mega Man Legends and Mega Man Legends 2. And I was just like, thank God people are they still have love for the Legends games, but also I'm like, oh my God, these are licensed. These are official.
Right.
What the hell?
It's not like some fledgling company is taking the music that they don't own the rights to, putting it on a CD, putting it on a record, and then selling it. Or somebody who would take a T-shirt and put Mega Man on there and sell it, and like, oh, I get to keep all this money. Yeah, I don't have the license for Mega Man, but I mean, I don't really own a company, so are they going to stop me? So at least they officially got the license for the music.
Yeah, that what to me that was just like, oh man, this is amazing, Mega Man Legends. But unfortunately, because I don't have a record player, but my biggest problem at PRGE this year had nothing to do with the vendors, has nothing to do with the convention itself. My biggest problem was the luggage I brought with me, because all I brought with me was a hard shell carry-on case and my backpack. That's it.
I know your pain.
So unfortunately, there's quite a few people. And also I think I bought more books than I did video games.
Who buys a book at a video game convention?
I do. I'm the nerd. No, you know what? That's another thing I really liked. I liked how there was other forms of media about video games at this convention than just video games.
True. You had movies, you had records, vinyl, books, all that stuff. It was really all encompassing.
Yeah, and I was like, there were a bunch of places, a bunch of like self-publishers, smaller publishers. One who writes, there's a gentleman who works for or who helps write for the magazine, or one of the magazines I write for, and I bought one of his books. And there was one company that I was really bummed, because they had you might have seen these guys, but they had this the collector's field guide to video game consoles. You know, it's this nice book. It's about like yay thick. It's like 200, 400 some pages of really good information about all these different video game consoles for people to go out and hunt down and collect. And I look at this, I'm like, this would be a great reference book for me to have. And I'm talking to the guy who wrote it, and I'm telling him, it's like, I want this so bad, but I can't. And he's like, oh, I'll knock like I'll knock $10, $15 off the price tag. And you want me to be on your podcast? So I'll do another deal. He was trying to give me a deal. And I'm telling him, was like, oh no, good sir. It's not a matter of, can I afford it? I know I can afford this. I probably shouldn't, but I know I could put the money down. The problem is, can I get this home safely? Because I don't have the backs. I saw so many beautiful pieces of art, even over by Ground Control, the arcade that they had a little booth for. They had a beautiful poster that I wanted to put in this open void space right here in the loft. There was another cool poster of Pac-Man, of the official PRGE art that I wanted to get. It just wouldn't fit. And I had to go on a plane to get back home to Southern California.
Same here. I went out there with the explicit plan of packing another bag inside my suitcase. So I folded it up, stuffed it in there with my clothes, with the intent of filling that particular bag up if I needed to. And I was going to check my bag that had my clothes in it. Well, luckily, everything I bought was able to fit in my my laptop carrying case and my luggage. There was one thing, however, that wasn't going to fit, and that was the Primal Rage banner that I bought, poster vinyl banner that I bought at the auction on Saturday night. Oh. That thing was like, I hold out my hands, and it's like, that's how wide it is, and it's about this tall. And rolled up, I was thinking maybe I could get it on the plane and put it in there, but I was like, no, it would not fit. I would have to fold it, and I'm not going to do that. So I had them ship it, and it's right above here. It's right above my gaming shelf over on this side. But I do feel your pain going out there, not knowing what they have, not knowing what you're going to come back with, and not having the extra space. One of the vendors I spoke to, he was telling me how, like, he had, whenever he first started, he had gone to places, and even not just with video games, but with like action figures. So he went to a store one time, and the guy's like, yeah, we're closing, and I'm going to, be selling all this stuff at a discount. And he's like, well, he looked over the store. He's like, yeah, I'll take it. He's like, what do you want? He's like, I want all of it. And he's like, what? He's like, yeah, I want all of this stuff. So what kind of deal are you going to get me? And the guy's like, I'm in Ohio. I don't live here. So I got to figure out how to get all this stuff back. So he goes to Target, and buys like several pieces of luggage specifically just to haul all his stuff that he just bought back home.
Yeah, my girlfriend and I, we joke. I mean, we joke, but we also were dead serious about when we finally are able to travel to Japan. We're gonna bring like an empty, like we're gonna check in a luggage, but one of them is gonna be complete. But we're gonna each like have like a luggage or 2 extra luggage pieces, like the big ones.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna be completely empty when we go from LA to Japan. And when we come back, they're gonna be chock full of souvenirs.
I'm the same way. I've always wanted to visit Japan. My wife and I have been talking about it for the past like 2 years. I think it's something we're going to do in the near future. But so many different video game stores to visit and get stuff on the cheap, on the super cheap. I am all for that.
Super Potato, the Pokemon Center, just anything in Akihabara. Essentially, that's the dream right now.
Yep,
is to go to Japan.
That's my mecca.
That mine too, buddy, mine too. But even with the PRGE, I would say I saw so many great things at PRGE, but then I also saw things that I was definitely outpriced for, and it kind of bummed me out.
Yeah.
My serotonin, I call it my serotonin buy. This was like the big purchase I made to after the Dodgers lost was a copy of Pokemon Fire Red.
Okay.
So I got a copy and I was looking around. It was going to be Fire Red or Emerald for the GBA. And I thought, okay, I know Pokemon games are expensive. Don't know why, but they still are. If I could find a loose copy of Fire Red for maybe $70, I'll be okay with that. I didn't find anything under 90. I found over 90, and I was like, you know what, 90 is probably the best price I'm going to get it at, so I got it for 90.
Again, you're at a convention where they have to upsell a little bit or increase their prices a little bit to pay for being there. So I get it.
Yeah, but also one of the pieces I've won as a collector's piece, I'm okay with it being loose. I don't need it to be in the box. Was Tengen Tetris for the NES.
Ah, yeah, I have that.
Yeah. I found one booth that had it.
I think I remember that booth.
He was selling it for like $120. And I'm like, can't do that. Too expensive. Yep. And I think I saw it on eBay for $30. So I'm like, oh yeah, I could pay $30 for that game. haven't seen it since. Haven't seen it since. And I'm like, son of a bitch.
Now, I think, and don't quote me, but I think we are seeing video game prices starting to dip.
Oh, you're not the only one who's thought that.
Okay, I hope so. I hope for going forward, we see prices drop significantly, and I'm okay with that. As somebody who has a significant video game collection, I'm okay if the prices go down a little bit because that's going to allow me to buy a lot more.
Yeah, and I apologize. That's the way I said that sounded a little mean. I'm sorry. I did not mean to sound mean.
No, you didn't. I didn't take it. Offense.
Okay. Sorry. Sometimes my brain goes that way. It's like, wait, did you say that in the nice tone?
No, I didn't take offense to anything you said.
All right. But yeah, I am hoping the same thing happens as well. I'm really hoping these prices start to go down because I would like to buy more games. Even though that me buying games, my backlog is just constantly staring at me. It's like,
same
why?
Here.
But there are definitely some games that I would have preferred, or not preferred, but there were some games that I was really itching to get. I was trying to find Luigi's Mansion because a Twitter friend of mine, I think she's a Twitter friend of yours too, Princess Sparkle Bunny, Amy.
Yeah.
She was giving me crap because I never played Luigi's Mansion before.
I had never played the original one. I played the one on the Switch. I played the Luigi's Mansion 3 with my kids, which is a fun game.
I haven't played any Luigi's Mansion, and I mentioned this to Amy, and then I don't know if she like calls me out on Twitter or DMs me, but she's like, you need to play Luigi's Mansion. I'm like, all right, I'll look for it at the show. And I'm thinking, I don't have a GameCube, unfortunately. I've never owned a GameCube. I had a Wii at one point in time, but I was not smart, and I did not get a bunch of GameCube games. So I'm like, you know what? I do think there's a 3DS remake. So there's Dark Moon and the original that was remade for the 3DS. So I'm like, okay, I'll get Luigi's Mansion. I'll try and find the first Luigi's Mansion and I'll play it, see if I like it. Then I'll get Dark Moon, then I can play Luigi's. Then I'll play Luigi's Mansion 3. I'm weird sometimes when I play games. I have to play them in order.
Okay.
Sometimes there are other times that doesn't apply. So I find during my air quote networking day, because Saturday was the day I was going to go through the convention, network, give people my business card, talk to people, try to get them on the show and do all this and get stuff to write an article, to write stuff for the many things I do. And then Sunday was the day I shop. I found a few places with Luigi's Mansion. I didn't check the price tag, but then on Sunday I come in, I'll go try to find it. They're gone.
Yeah.
And I'm like, damn it. I wanted that.
There's benefits to shopping on Sunday. Obviously, you have vendors that are willing to come down on their prices. There's a lot of stuff that they don't want to take back, but there's also benefits to having a media pass and getting in the floor before everything opens to the public. Because if you spot something that you want and it's at a decent price, there you go. You have the benefit of that. What you got there?
I got Sonic. So these aren't Legos, but it's like the you might have seen these around. They're kind of like the little Pokemon nano block things. That's okay. So it's pixel art, but this is classic Sonic the Hedgehog in the pixel art. Box is there. The bag is completely sealed. I saw this, and the guy was selling it for $15, and I'm like, I gotta get it. And he was able to sell it to me before the show opened. Pat's book, it's right over there. He sold it to me before the show opened, and I'm like, this is great. I love this. Having media pass is awesome.
It is definitely a nice benefit.
Yeah, because this was the only thing I bought on Friday. I could be wrong, but I was just looking through and I saw this pixel brick. And I'm like, I want that. How much is that? Oh, that's $15. Done.
Yeah, I think I ended up buying Donkey Kong Jr. Math on Friday. From a vendor. It was the same one that told me the story about him buying the action figures. Yeah, he said he was liquidating his entire collection. Mm-hmm. He's getting out of it. And I was like, well, I might be back for this Donkey Kong Jr. Math. And I think at the time it was priced for like $160. And he's like, well, shoot me an offer. I'm like, shoot you an offer. You know, I hate it when people say that, because me as a collector, I want to get the item for as cheap as possible. You being a seller, you want to get the most money out of it. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to insult them by saying, oh, $100. So I shot out an offer of like 140, because I was like 150, probably that's comfortable. But like, let me see if I can get a little bit cheaper. I was like 140. He's like, all right, I'll do it. I'm just like, what? He's like, yeah, I'll do it right now. I was like, crap. Okay. I mean, I do have cash, but it's like none of their stuff was up yet. The internet wasn't working for any of the vendors, so they couldn't do electronic payments or anything like that. So I'm like, this is too good of a deal. He already said yes. I was like, there you go. I'll take it. So now I own Donkey Kong Jr. Math.
Yay.
Yay.
Yay. There was definitely there were so many impulse buys. Like a bunch of the books I have right here, there were damn impulse buys. I want to say the one game that I wouldn't say it burned me, but a game that I was just casually looking for was the Pokemon trade card game for the Game Boy Color.
Okay.
And I want to say it was SideQuest. SideQuest had it for $30. I didn't really get to, it was in the case, but I thought $30. All right. I mean, it
was loose, right?
Loose. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. If it was CIB, I stole it.
Well, yeah, because I was on a Whatnot auction yesterday and some guy was selling a CIB copy of that. And I think it went for over $200 or $190 or something like that.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah. It was a loose copy. I was fine with my Game Boy games. I'm okay loose. So I got it loose, and then later on the convention, I'm looking at another vendor. They had the same thing, better looking label, $28. I'm like, okay, $2 price difference. That's not that bad. I find it again somewhere else for $25. I'm like, God damn it.
That's why you always got to look. That's the thing. It's a double-edged sword. You see the game that you want. It's got a price tag. You're like, oh, I really want this game. Do I go and look around a little bit deeper to see if somebody's got it for cheaper? Or do I just bite the bullet and take the risk that somebody else is not going to see it and like, oh, yoink?
I bet the bullet.
Yeah, it's done that to me too.
I bit the bullet, and no shade to side quests. They did give me a good game. The game works, although I did find not only that, that's the game I've been playing the most since I
Oh,
came
there you
home with
go.
it. And it's weird because I never played I'm writing an article for it about it on Go Nintendo right now. But I'm sitting there playing this card game video game. I'm like, normally I hate card game video games, but this is really fun and a very easy way to teach people how to play the Pokemon trading card game. Because as a kid in the 90s, sorry, flash my 90s shirt right now. As a kid grew up in the 90s at the peak of Pokemon, I didn't know how the fuck to play the Pokemon card game. We just bought the cards and showed them off.
Yeah, I played Magic the Gathering in the 90s when it came out since beta. So I've been a player of Magic since beta. And then when Pokemon came out, I was like, what is this? Like, what is this child crap? I was like, no, I am steering clear. And I could have purchased original initial booster packs and stuff like that, but I steered clear of it. And now I'm kicking myself in the ass.
I unfortunately what became a bit of an edgelord. I mean, my co-host Ryan on the Fake Nerd podcast, he told me he saves his hollows, but he threw all of his other cards in a fire once, just because you know, teenage edgelords phase, right?
Yeah.
He kept the expensive ones, but he threw the other ones in the garbage. I think my original collection of cards, I either just sold at a garage sale or gave away. I don't remember, but I never had an original Charizard. My girlfriend has an original Charizard.
Ooh.
And I'm upset because I never pulled a Charizard. And now that I'm playing the Pokemon TCG game for Game Boy, and I'm seeing all these Pokemon cards on YouTube, I'm starting to fall into a rabbit hole, and I'm looking at these card packs, and I'm like, I kinda, but I shouldn't.
Right. Now, hopefully she has that Charizard in like a one touch or an acrylic case or something like that and has a protective.
It's in a sleeve with other cards, but it's not like it's not one of those super expensive Charizards.
Okay.
But it's still a Charizard from the 90s, which, I mean, it's up there, but it's not the up there, if you know what I mean.
It's not the Charizard. And I think I remember you mentioning something like that on Twitter about like, oh, I'm playing a trading card game or something like that, right?
Yeah. Oh,
okay,
yeah, totally.
right.
It was it was the Pokemon one, and I'm just like, why the F is this so fun for me now? This is weird. I mean, as I got older and I started playing more card games, I mean, I learned how to play Magic in high school. And then one of my best friends really got into Magic and didn't have anyone else to play. And he roped me into playing because just to have someone to play with. And then I'm like, yo, this is actually kind of fun. Then my roommates were really good. Then I got back into Yu-Gi-Oh! And all this other stuff. It's like, damn it, card games, why?
The card crack is expensive.
Yeah.
For me, like I learned this too late in life with trading card games is to just go after the singles, spend the money, go after the singles of what you want. Stop playing the lottery on trying to rip open that expensive card in the packs, like spending $3 to $4 on the pack and getting absolute junk. Yeah. Spend the extra money. Take that $4. If that card you wanted was $15, guess what? You just wasted it. And now you don't have the card. Yeah. Take the money, buy the single card. There you go. End of story.
Yeah, there's a Charizard out of this. I mean, there's also like the high you get when you pull a super rare card.
Of course, absolutely.
I will not lie, because the Charizard that I want is like the 25th anniversary one, so it should be like, I don't know, $5-10 at most. Hopefully it's not super expensive. But I'll be okay with owning that Charizard. But there was one time where me and my buddy, because we have like they have the oversized Pokemon cards. Mm-hmm. And when you buy a pack of starters, it also comes with 2 booster packs of the TCG. And the first pack I got like, I want to say I got the Johto starters, and I'm like, okay, I haven't opened Pokemon cards since I went to Detective Pikachu, and they gave me a 3-card pack. So you know what? Okay, might as well. I pull like this rarer Rayquaza full art card, and I'm just staring at it going, oh no, the thrill of pulling a rare card.
It's got its hooks in you.
Yep. It got me.
It's dangerous.
It is extreme. There's one time I even told my girlfriend that, like, hey, I'll buy us some Pokemon Go booster packs to see if we could pull a Ditto. Didn't pull a Ditto, but we still had fun playing.
Yeah, there you go.
But you are absolutely right. Card crack is very, very dangerous. And even seeing that there was a lot of Pokemon cards for sale at PRGE, it's like, now it kind of makes sense, because I don't know if this was the same, if this was the way back at 2019 or even at PRGE's prior, but now that TCGs like Pokemon, I think there's a few Yu-Gi-Oh games, Yu-Gi-Oh sellers there
Yeah.
as well. But with mostly Pokemon, how that Pokemon, even the trading cards have also made their way into the retro gaming scene is still like, this wasn't a thing now. Back then, you wouldn't see this at a gaming convention. Now you do. It's like, where's the Pokemon cards? Oh, we got like 20 sellers over that way.
Yeah, and I think that's because with the whole grading thing that took off, and cards have been graded for the longest time, but other companies recently started to do trading card game grading.
Mhm.
So I think that's the reason why you now see it at any avenue that they can to sell it, they're going to take it. So that's why you're seeing it at video game conventions.
Yeah. And is it weird that I'm okay with comic books and trading cards getting graded, but I'm not okay with video games getting graded?
I'm the same way. I have a couple of graded comics that I sent in myself, but for the most part, all of my entire comic book collection is ungraded. And you know
Mhm.
why? Because I can pop open a bag, take out the comic, feel it in my hands, read the comic, and put it back. And that's something I really like to do. If I were to take all of my comics and grade them, then I don't have that luxury anymore. Yeah,
Right.
I could go digital. I could read a comic digitally, but it doesn't replace the feeling of holding it in your hands, flipping through the pages, and reading it that way. And that's the best way that I like to experience it. The
Yeah.
same thing with video games, like we talked about earlier. If you have a sealed game, sure, go grade it, sell it to get the money to buy more video games. When people do this with complete and box stuff, I don't really like. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't grade a complete in box item because then I can't open it up and play it.
Right. Yeah. Totally agree. And to me, I mean, yeah, with comic books, because I don't grade my comic books. If I get a comic book graded, I there's some like so many double-edged sword and so many devil advocates things and arguments that I feel like the people for and against can easily turn on the head, and and they're essentially distorting what I want to say about that. Because for me, I see video games as an entertainment, as a medium to be enjoyed, as a medium to do. It's like, well, what about comic books? So like, I mean, I'm okay with comic books being graded. It's like, oh, but comic books have to be read. Why can't you do that? And there's just in many different avenues
Yeah.
that people can go. And that I would say that's a discussion for another day. Yeah, because that's a rabbit hole I really do not want to dive down right now. But
No. It's you can argue either side.
yeah, you totally can. You totally can. But my next question for you, good sir, what was some of the coolest things you picked up at this year's PRGE?
Ooh. Actually, let me grab my phone because I kind of
I
forgot
want
everything that I bought.
I want to see the goods.
um,
As I'm
okay,
Smeagol from frickin' Lord of the Rings.
Miguel.
My
Um,
precious.
so the three NES games that I picked up were Donkey Kong Junior Math, Stack Up, Loose, not complete, Loose, and um, James Bond Jr. for the NES.
Ooh.
Those were the three that I picked up. Now everything else, I did pick up a couple of manuals that I needed. Batman Returns for the Sega CD.
Mm-hmm.
Also, let's see what else. The Gunslinger collection for the 3DO, which is it's got Mad Dog McCree, um, 1 and 2, and then another game I think is Who Shot Johnny Rock, and there was a gun that was actually bundled with it for $100.
Ooh.
Now I thought this was the 3DO gun. Unfortunately, it's the Sega CD
Ah.
American Laser Games gun, which still like by itself I think that's like a almost $100 gun.
Mm-hmm.
So packaged along with the complete in box 3DO game for $100, definitely a good deal.
Pretty good, yeah.
I also got a Tekken long box for the PlayStation 1.
Nice.
The Primal Rage banner, which I did tell you about. I think I got Way of the Warrior for 3DO complete in box.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of PS3 Street Fighter fighting games. And Athena 5-screw hang tab complete in box for the NES. Which I think was only like $50.
I think I remember you posting about your Athena find.
Yeah, I got that one, and then also Kung Fu for the NES complete in box. Not a 5-screw hang tab, I think it was like 3 screw, but I think it was maybe $30.
Okay.
So yeah, not a bad haul. Not a lot of stuff, but definitely some stuff I needed for my collection. And there was one thing I picked up for a friend of mine who is my co-host on the Gamers Week podcast, Retro Game Brews. There was a game called Beat 'em and Eat 'em for the Atari 2600. It is it's an adult themed game, and there were a few of them back in the day.
Yeah,
This one is sealed, and the guy wanted. She's like, it's like we want 160, but we'll take like 150 for it. And Ryan's like, well, let's see if we can get it for like 120. I'm like, you'd probably have to do that on Sunday. I was like, but I'll try. And Sunday comes along, and I go back to the table, and lo and behold, there's another gentleman there. He's got the game in his hand, and he's asking them how much they want for it. So she's like, yeah, we want 150. And I'm like, how about 120 cash right now? And she's like, you have to talk to this guy, big Samoan guy who ran the table. And I was like, 120 cash right now. He's like, lowest I can go is like 130. And I was like, 125, like right now, here you go. And he's like, okay. And I was like, all right, here you go. So for now, Ryan's got a sealed copy of Beat 'em and Eat 'em for the Atari 2600.
And you were able to snatch the copy from the other guy's hand.
Yeah, once he put it down, and like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to, while he's making a deal, I'm not just going to butt in and say, I'll give you this.
Mm-hmm.
I waited for him to put it down and started looking at other things. And I was like, yep. Then I offered my price. I wasn't going to be a dick.
That's yeah, because motto of the Victor podcast, don't be a dick.
Right.
Yeah. I want to say, let's see, what are some of the cool, actually, hold up. There you are. I gotta say, this is one of the coolest things I picked up, and it's the Famicom Minis. So this is Super Mario Bros. 2.
Okay.
So this is what Japan got for their NES. No, this is what Japan got when Nintendo remade a bunch of their NES games for the Game Boy Advance.
Oh, okay.
So what Japan did is that they put the game, the actual cartridge for the game, inside a replica box of the box art, the original box art for that game, and put in this nice like little plastic cover. And this is Super Mario Bros. 2 for the Famicom Disk System, which we got here in America as the Lost Levels.
Okay.
And a few places had these, and I thought these are so cool because they come in like this nice little. It's a 1-to-1 replica of the original box. Unlike here, where it's just a standard GBA box, but it's black and it has some form of black box art on it, even though all the games that came out for it weren't 100% black box games. But I just think this is so cool, and if you take the cartridge out, especially this one, it's just the exact same shade of yellow as the Famicom Disk System was in Japan. Nice. And I just think these so cool. Yeah, I got this for about $40, and I went to Double Jump, and they had original Mario Bros. For $25. I thought about picking up the original Super Mario Bros. Just so I can have the box, because I think the box art is so much prettier than we got here in Japan, or here in America, I should say. And I was like, nah, I'll hold off. Luckily they had a lot of the Super Mario Bros. Ones, so those I'm not scared. But this one I thought was cool because this is Mario 2, but not our Mario 2, and I think
not ours.
Neat. Not ours, but still, I think it's like super super neat. And also I'm bummed because I feel like we got robbed here in America. Like this is complete CIB too. The instruction booklet's there. I don't read a lick of Japanese, but it's all there, and it's so meticulously crafted, and it's so nice.
You don't need to be able to read Japanese. Just use your phone. Google Translate.
Very true. Although there is some there is some English text here that says for sale and use in Japan only. LOL.
Sorry.
But yeah, that was I got that, and also I got Advance Wars for the DS. Advance Wars Dual Strike.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a game I've been looking for, but I wasn't supposed to leave with Advance Wars. I was supposed to leave with Luigi's Mansion, but Double Jump screwed up.
Oh, what happened?
So I'm at the booth. I'm talking to one of the ladies, and I find Luigi's Mansion, $50. And I'm like, all right, because I also had a sealed copy of Pokemon Ultra Sun in my hand, or Ultra Moon, I should say. And I'm like, oh, I want this, but I want that. And I had my Fire Red. I'm like, you know what? I'll just go with Luigi's Mansion. Amy's gonna get mad at me if I don't get Luigi's Mansion. So you know what? I do want to try this game. I'll give it a shot. But I open up the case and the game's not in there. And I go, she's like, oh, for those games, we have them up in the front. So you just pay, we'll dig them out and we'll slot it in. So that
Makes
way,
sense.
so people don't steal the games. I'm like, okay,
Right.
cool. But everything, all the inserts were there. It was CIB. I'm like, okay, that's fine. And then I see Dual Strike. I'm like, oh, but this is another game I've been looking for. Damn it. So I'm just trying, I weigh the scales. They're both the exact same price. So I figured, you know what, I'm just gonna go with Luigi's Mansion. That's the one I'm really looking forward to. I'll just go ahead and go with that one. I go to the front, I pay my money. They're trying to find a game, and they can't find it.
They can't find Luigi's Mansion?
They can't find Luigi's Mansion. They instead pull out a copy of Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon. And they're like, wait a minute. Did someone buy Dark Moon earlier? And they're like, I think someone did. Yeah, it's like, because whoever found that put in Luigi's Mansion with Dark Moon, and now we have Dark Moon with the Luigi's Mansion. So they're like, uh-oh, we messed up. We messed up some prior person's order. And I'm standing there going, what does that mean? So they look at me and they go, okay, you technically paid for a game we don't have. Is there anything else you want instead? How can we make this right? And I'm like, can we just do like a straight exchange for a game that's the exact same price? And they're like, yes, we can. Cool. I'll be right back. Pick up Advance Wars Dual Strike, walk back. They scan it. Totally. I walk away with Dual Strike instead.
Okay. So we're talking Luigi's Mansion for the 3DS, right?
3DS, yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, if you go by price charting, was there a Luigi's Mansion for the regular 3? Like just,
yeah,
there's Dark Moon.
It was a remake.
Okay, yeah, you're right. Yeah, somebody got somebody got screwed. Well, no, they didn't get screwed. They got the better item with the regular Luigi's Mansion in a Dark Moon case.
They got bamboozled.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what happened after that, but I was sitting there like, man, I was going to get this game, but I didn't. But instead, I got a game that I was also really wanting to get. So now I have the original, the first 3 Advance Wars games: Advance Wars 1, 2 for the GBA, and Dual Strike for the DS.
Win-win.
For me, it's a win-win. So yeah. I'm like, I'll take it. That's fine. But absolutely. I just found that hilarious because it's one of those, because you could tell, because I used to work retail when I was younger, and even I can only imagine working retail at a convention, especially when you're running a booth like Double Jump. That's a bigger booth that a lot of people are going to, and they're perusing and they're asking questions and they're talking and not yelling, but you could hear the music and they're raising their voices so they could be heard. At one point in time, it was probably just a like, oh shit, what do we do? But all in all, I mean, they were very cool. I must say, all the people I've talked with and the people I've tried to make deals with and buy video games from, everyone has just been like very chill and like, hey, we'll do this for you, or we'll do X, Y, and Z for you.
Yeah. Most of the places that I've gone to, a lot of vendors are like that. There's only been like a handful and less than a handful of vendors who are very adamant and very strict about what they want to get for their products. They don't care that they're $50 more than what it should be. This is what they're asking for, and they're not going to budge. There are vendors, the type of vendor that I hate and despise is the person who has no price tags on their stuff.
Oh,
so you go up to, and this is something I experienced at Southern Fried Gaming Expo back in July when I went down there. There was a particular vendor there, and this vendor hall was small. There were not a lot of vendors there. And this guy in particular had a bunch of, long box PS1 stuff, some regular PS1 stuff, and other games, but no price tags on them. So I go to grab a game and I'm like, no price tag. Okay. How much for this? Grabs his phone, immediately goes to price charting. And I'm like, nope. It's like, I don't deal with that. The first time I let it slide, he's like, 25. I was like, can you do 20? He's like, no, not for PS1 long box. Nope, can't do that. I'm like, okay. Next day, come back. I see another game. I was thinking maybe they would have overnight put price tags on their stuff. Nope, didn't happen. Grab it. I was like, how much? Goes immediately to price charting. I was like, you know what? Nope. I put it down and just walked away. And he kind of looked at me. I was like, I'm not gonna do that. You need to have price tags on your stuff before you come to a damn convention. Don't sit there and look up price charting on your phone and tell me that's what you want. And he was strict with price charting prices too. It's not like he was giving $10 off or $15 off. But like I said, like we talked earlier, you're at a convention, you have to pay to be there. I just think it's a bad habit.
No, it is. I think there were a few vendors that I saw. I mean, some of them did have prices on their games, but the ones that didn't, they didn't go to their phones. They're just like, oh no, I remember. It's either they had a booklet, like a master booklet, a binder with all the prices they had, or I mean, of course, like if the price was on it, they're like, okay, yeah, I'll cut you a deal. We'll figure stuff out. They didn't. Like the second, I agree, because the second they pull out their phone, and they start doing a price charting search. I'm like, nah, I'm out.
Yeah.
I mean,
this is what the last 3 sold were. Like, oh, okay, whatever.
I mean, even when I do go to conventions, I do try to get as close to price charting as humanly possible. Like, I'm still not super upset that I paid an extra over $5 for Pokemon TCG.
Oh yeah, not at all.
Yeah, because it's like, oh, it's $5. It's not that bad. If anything, I'm more mad that I didn't get a better looking game for it, because there's this
that was cheaper. Yeah,
that was cheaper. Yeah, but other than that, also the game works. I did find this little glitch that was weird, and I was able to contact SideQuest about it, and they're like, hey, if the problem persists, I mean, they said, hey, try fixing it this way, and I'll let them know if the problem persists. I found a workaround around said problem, so the game still works. It functions. I'm able to play the game, which is what I bought it for.
Yeah.
But at least as far as I can tell, they're like, oh no, I mean, they'll talk to me. It's like, hey, I bought this game at this convention. And I discovered this problem. Is there a way to fix it, or what's the deal? And then if it keeps persisting and it keeps happening, then maybe they'll like help me out or send me a new copy or something. I don't know.
Yeah, and have you send that copy back and all that stuff.
Yeah, like I send them my copy, they send me the new one, and because I want to support those guys, and there's also a few other people down there that when I was talking to them, they were like, these are really cool people. Like there's a store that me and my buddy Scott went to on Thursday. We landed on Thursday and we were exploring Portland a little bit, and there's a store called Top of the Line Games. It was a great store. So much stuff in there. And like the people I was talking to, the shop clerks were really friendly. They were really cool to talk to. They had this really cute logo with a tanuki, like a Tom Nook raccoon, and like a coat of arms with a few other video game things. And I was like, man, this is really cool. This is really nice. But you are 100% right about those Northwestern prices, because Jesus, tap dancing Christ, were games in there expensive.
Yeah, and that's I saw another tweet, or maybe it was something on Facebook the other day, about how these stores are always stacked with stuff, but there's a reason for that. It's because their prices are so ridiculously high that they can't move the product.
Yeah, so. When I was at Top of the Line, when I was at their storefront before the convention started, I was looking at some PS1 games and like, oh, okay, because a lot of PS1 RPGs, they were like 70, 100, 120. They had a new 3DS XL that was the Super Nintendo coloring, $800.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was sealed or not, but the last time I remember seeing one of those suckers and it was sealed, the store that was selling it wanted $500 for it. And I was joking with one of my friends, is like, do you want a PS5 or do you want a new Nintendo 3DS?
It's like, I'll take the PS5.
Yeah. But at the same time, I'm looking at this, I'm like, that's an insanely high price tag, but it's also sealed. Never been opened before. So at that point, I'm like, okay, I could kind of forgive it, but still, I don't have $500 to burn.
Right.
And if I did have that $500 to burn at that time, it would have gone to a PS5, not to a 3DS. As much as I love the 3DS, and I did get a 3DS game, so that made me happy.
Probably a better purchase for the PS5.
Yeah, probably a better purchase.
Yeah.
But other than that, all in all, what are some of the things that you reflect back on this year's PRG? It's like, man, to you, was it a great convention? Was it a good convention? What was like your feeling after the convention was done for you?
It was a good convention. So it was a great convention in 2019 when it was my first time going to one of these things. This one, it was a repeat. So it was nothing better, nothing worse, more of the same. I did get to hang out with some friends the entire weekend. I did get a backstage seat to setting up the Blockbuster World Championships with Red Ox and Ducks in Disguise. Just a great overall time. You know, the Pacific Northwest is a place that I love. I love to visit. My wife and I have even contemplated moving there. The prices, I think, just kind of keep us away from the area. But yeah, just a great time seeing people, getting to talk to people, getting to see people with the same mind that love the same thing in the same space, sharing what they love. And that means a lot.
Although you didn't sign my nipple.
I did not sign your nipple. That was not even supposed to something that was supposed to be something that happened. That's RGB. He likes to make plans for me and then see if I can deliver on them. But no, I was not signing anybody's nipple.
Donnie, I am so sorry. I had to bring that. So when I posted the picture of the two of us, when we finally met each other IRL at PRGE, I want to say it was Blue who tweeted back at me and said, "Did he sign your nipple?" And I was very confused. At that point in time, I had not listened to the latest episode of the Gamers Week podcast because when you guys put that episode out, I was already at PRGE. I was listening to shows. I was like, woo, stuff.
Right.
And then when I finally came back home and I started listening to it, and she mentioned, and it was Blue and Retro Game Brews were talking about you signing people's nipples. I'm like, oh, that's why.
Happy Gilmore style. Like,
I'm looking at it. I'm just looking at I'm back in the hotel room because I'm not gonna lie, the internet at the convention center was horrid.
It sucks.
I am so glad that all my stories were able to go through it, but man, there were times where my phone was like exploding when I was on the train to go back to my hotel room. I was like, oh damn, I missed some things.
Yep.
But yeah, I was looking at the phone and I saw Blue tweeting me. I'm like, what? And like so many things are going through my brain. I'm like, I was wearing my Super Nintendo jersey. That thing is like, don't get that dirty.
Yeah, I'm not going to write on that.
Please don't write on that.
Show me your nipple. I'll sign it. The nipple will be the O. D nipple NNIEG.
Well, I was just glad to meet you in person. That's all I was happy about.
Me too.
Even though it was for 5 seconds.
Yeah, it was very early.
Yeah.
I don't think I saw you the rest of the convention.
I didn't. I wanted to message you again to see if you wanted to hang out or something. But at the same time, as I was telling my publisher when we went to dinner that night, sensory overload.
Yeah.
Just especially for someone like me, because I was telling him I was a kid at the candy store. I was like constantly looking at something like, ooh, shiny over here, ooh, shiny over there. And I felt bad because there are times I would go one way, my friend Scott would go a different way, but then we just talked to each other. It's like, oh no, I'm going to go that way. If you want to do your own thing, go do your own thing. And we would just break off and explore. And all of a sudden, I'm like at one end of the convention hall. I'm just like, what's going on? Where are all look at all the things.
Yeah, it was definitely a sensory overload.
Yeah, it was definitely a Doug from Up moment where I go, squirrel! But instead, but there was one game I did see, and it made me think of you, and I'm kind of mad at myself that I didn't message you about it, but at the same time, I thought you weren't going to get it anyways.
Okay.
Little Samson for $8,000.
Yeah, of course not. I'm not going to spend $8,000 on Little Samson. While the game is fun, don't get me wrong, it's one of the funner later releases of a Nintendo game that they had. No thanks. I'm not going to drop that much coin on it.
I think it was CIB, but I just saw Little Samson, 8,000, and I'm like, I know Donnie's been looking for this, but at the same time, I don't think he has $8,000 to burn.
I haven't been looking for it. I mean, I see it all the time. I'm not going to be the one that drops that amount of money to pick it up.
I don't think because I remember there are times where on the show you mentioned about Little Sam, like you probably threw some jokes about Little Samson, so that made me think it was like, oh, I guess Donnie's looking for this one. But yeah, I saw that and I'm like, yeah, that's not even close, not even for me. Same thing with like the Wada Seal games that were thousands upon thousands of dollars. I'm just like, how about
they they had sealed Genesis games, and I don't know if they were sealed, but some of them were complete in box and stuff like that. It's just no thanks.
Yeah,
Not for me.
No thanks. But I am super happy with the stuff I got.
Me too.
Probably should have exercised a little bit self-control.
No, it's the one time where you can actually go wild.
It is the time, and I'm telling myself, it's like I had my fun in there. I'm just gonna relax. I'm just gonna enjoy it. And thankfully, my birthday's coming up, so then I should be getting some birthday money, and that's going straight back to the savings account.
Yeah.
But yeah, Donnie, thank you so much for coming on and just reminiscing about PRG with me, man. It is
absolutely.
It has been a blast. One more question before we end the show today. What is the biggest tip you would give someone who is going to PRGE for the very first time? If they listen to this, they go and they start looking into it. They're like, you know what? I'm going to commit to it. I'm going to save up. I'm going to go to PRGE. What's the biggest tip you have for that person?
Don't be so quick to experience everything right off the bat. You're going to have a few days to do that. Wear comfortable shoes, stay hydrated, and don't be so quick to separate your money from your wallet. Just like you said, you bought a game for $30, then you went to another table, you saw it for 28, then you went to a third table, you saw it for 25. Don't get involved with that fear of missing out, of not being able to have that game. There are going to be, if it's not a rare game, there are going to be other vendors that have it, and probably at a cheaper price. Don't necessarily wait until Sunday to pick something up, because it could be gone. But Sundays are when the deals happen.
Yeah. Because I was thinking we're gonna wait till I was waiting till Sunday, but then when Sunday hit, I was talking to my buddy because we were gonna go back to the hotel room around 1 to watch a certain football game that was airing that day. So, yeah, those are some very good tips. I would definitely say that, don't be too quick to spend, because yes, you do see a lot of really cool things, a lot of beautiful things, but just try to take a deep breath, take it all in, and then just I would say do maybe a once over of the convention at first, and then maybe prioritize because I came in with a list. I had a list of games I was trying to find, a list of games I was looking for, and even a list of hey, if I find it and I'm okay with it, I'm going to go for it. Did I find everything on my list? No. Did I find games that were not on my list? Of course I did. But I would definitely say go, just take it all in, and just try to prioritize. And another tip I would say is bring a big ass suitcase. Bring
enough space in your suitcase to get stuff back home. Otherwise, you're shipping it.
You're screwed, because I saw so many N64s. I saw the Jungle Green N64 that I've been wanting for years. A guy was selling it for under $200, and I'm like, and he had the controller too. I'm like, I can do it, but I shouldn't, because it's gonna take up all the space. And I'm like, damn it all.
Yeah, that's kind of a high price anyway for that, because those typically go for 130 in my area.
Oh, so when's the next gaming thing in your area again?
I'm just talking about Facebook Marketplace. I see people selling Jungle Green stuff all the time for that price.
Well, unfortunately, here in California, people are a little more on the up and up. So yeah, so if I were to go to my Facebook Marketplace and search for a Jungle Green N64, they would probably be like 200, 250, give or take.
Oof. Man,
yeah, because unfortunately, I live in an area where people know about electronics. So not to say that St. Louis doesn't, but
it's just a different. I mean, there are people who are more willing to get rid of stuff around here for a cheaper price, and not be sticklers for price charting or eBay and what have you.
Not here. Have you seen our gas prices?
Yeah, that's the one thing I do not want to, I do not want to experience what you guys have.
I mean, come out and visit us by all means, but I don't live here. It's too expensive.
Yeah, I don't want to.
Yeah, that's fine. We're full. There's so many people here. Traffic has gone up. As much as I love the state of California, I was born and bred in the state, but goddamn, there are so many things. That's a different topic. Yeah, visiting good. Visiting's very good. But anyways, Donnie, thank you again so much for coming on. I, of course, open invite you Retro Game Brews, Ryan and Blue, open invite to the show. Whenever you guys want to come on, chat video games, you're more than welcome to hit me up.
Sure.
But yeah, where can people find you on the internet, my friend?
You can find me more primarily on Twitter at Donnie G Retro, and also with the Gamers Week podcast. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts. I do stream seldomly on Twitch. Same name, Donnie G Retro. I actually had my first stream last Tuesday in almost 6 months, 6 or 7 months. And I plan to get back into it a little sparingly. It's not going to be on the schedule that I kept before, where I was doing it 3 or 4 times a week. It's probably only going to end up like maybe once or twice a week.
Okay. Well, definitely go ahead and check them out. Definitely check out the Gamers Week podcast. It's a fantastic show. There are definitely times I'm listening to the show and I'm like, I got to message them about it, but then something happens and I forget and I'm mad at myself because there was something you guys were talking about. Yeah, essentially squirrel. But also, God damn it, squirrel again. Squirrel. But yeah, go check out Gamers Week podcast. Go check out Donnie G on Twitter. And of course, you can follow me at BenMagnet27, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. And you can also find me writing for Old School Gamer Magazine, Fusion Gaming Magazine, GoNintendo.com, and of course, co-hosting the Fake Nerd Podcast, which is the channel you're watching or listening or whatever. But yeah, FakeNerdPodcast.com. That's the hub for everything Fake Nerds. Once again, Ryan, thank you so much. It was great meeting you for that split second. I hope to see you again in the future, IRL, and we can spend a little more time than 5 seconds together.
You called me Ryan. I'm Donnie.
Damn it!
But I knew what you meant. It was Donnie, great seeing you too.
Thank you. At this point, I deserve the nipple. I deserve the nipple signing at this point. And it's not a nice
next time.
It's not in a nice way either. It's going to be written on there vigorously hard.
Yep. I'm going to tattoo it.
God. Oh shit. All right. And for now,
thanks, Ben. It was fun.
Of course, Donnie. Have a great one. And for now, unpause.